Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgive. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, it's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again. Yeah.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Rock the Boat here on UCY.tv. I'm your host, Ron Stevens, and the show will run till 2 o'clock. And today we're going to discuss direct democracy. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on out here. We have this thing called the Guaranteed Basic Income that's being pushed, and is being promoted, and to a lesser extent, it's starting to be pushed, which is direct democracy. And so my two guests today, Paul and Nick, are involved in the direct democracy movement. And so I'm going to bring them in here, and we'll see if there's a website. I know they have a couple of Facebook sites they work with. And we're going to spend some time dealing with the idea of direct democracy, what it is, why it's good or why it isn't good, and how we can. I think basically this what these guys are trying to do, and a lot of people are trying to do. They've come to understand that this system, as Duck likes to call it, is detrimental to the men and women of these lands, and always has been, and looking for a way to correct some of this so that we, the men and women, are actually in control of the present and future of our nations, as it should be. The government is supposed to be the servant of the men and women, and it doesn't take an Einstein to figure out that we are the servants, and that's why I say the world's upside down. It's ass backwards, and we need to fix it. So I'm going to bring Nick and Paul in, and they can introduce themselves, and then we will go from there. I'll bring Paul in here first, and there's Paul.
There's Paul. Here I am.
Okay, I need you to knock off the radio or whatever, Paul.
All right, hold on.
Like if you're in the chat, there's that player there.
Yeah, the chat sound.
Just hit that thing and kill it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good now. So I'll bring you in first, and then we'll bring Nick in right after. So you're from Windsor, Ontario. So you're living in a province that you've seen disintegrate basically over the last couple of decades, really, and so you're involved with this direct democracy now, and I'm just curious as to how you got involved in it or why.
Well, we could see that democracy that we have. What the democracy, everybody has their own definition of that word. It seems like it, and that's how most people would define their voice in the political arena, and that's the way I would probably define it. Really, that's the party system that we have right now is not really a true form of a voice for yourself. Really, I voted for parties for years, and I stopped doing that because it's just an exercise of futility. Really, where it's not a true voice. They changed their stance from their what do you call political platforms all the time. Midstream, you never know who to vote for because they're all liars, really. So, the only true voice is your own voice, and the only method we could have that is if we had a pure direct democracy where everybody had a vote on the issues themselves, as opposed to voting a representative, which is what the republic is really a representative of. The true definition of a republic is one person representing many, which is really not really a true democracy either. You're not really a voice.
Okay, we'll stop there, and then can you just give a shout out to your Facebooks and if you have a blog or a website, and then we'll get Nick in here.
Well, Nick is on right now, and he's talking to me. He's ready to come on again.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to do this with you, and I'm bringing Nick straight in, and then we can introduce him. But have you got? You just want to shout out your blogs or your Facebooks or whatever? And then we'll get Nick in here.
Well, myself, we started off as I Accuse, which is Indigenous and Civil Unified Sovereign Enactment, and that's we're trying to go outside of the current government to be able to change this, as opposed to trying to. We'll never get this kind of change through the current system of representative democracy we have. These people are more about maintaining their party and their funders than actually representing the people that actually elected them. So,
okay, quick question: are you Native?
No.
You're not Native. Okay. I desperately want to talk to some Native folks. I'll tell you what one Native woman told me, which just nails it on the head once we get Nick in here. So we'll bring Nick in now and get this thing on, get the show on the road here. This is slow going, this thing.
Hello.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah,
I'm
we just had Paul in here ahead for a second just to say a few things and do the same with you now. We'll get the show going. Just a little bit about yourself and maybe your blogs, or if you've got a website, or I know you guys are on several different Facebooks. I think maybe just on one. But just a little background as to what perked your interest in this direct democracy.
Well, it happened about 5 years, actually, maybe even longer, back in the economic collapse, 2008, 2009. I was a very big skeptic of politics to begin with, and then that for me was just the final straw. And started coming across some articles about how the Swiss politics, or how they run their country with direct democracy, and kind of piqued my interest, and started investigating it, and came to the realization that this basically was the only way to run a country or a province or even a city or town. Basically, politicians had failed me, political parties have failed me, and it was just time for a change. It was time to put power back into the hands of people. And okay. I do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
It's called Direct Democracy for Canadians. It's actual page and group. So.
Okay, that's your Facebook page.
Yes, yeah.
And then Paul's is I Accuse.
Actually, we got several. We started off actually with a group called Direct Democracy. What's it called? The two. Pull it out here. We've actually changed the name to something a little less aggressive than what it was, but it's called Canada's Direct Democracy Campaign to End Political Parties. Okay, that's how we originally started, and then we morphed into I Accuse, and now we've morphed into our newest, latest, greatest movement called My Freedom 2017, which is we had a press release recently that went out, and we're making our plan to change things more public, and that's what the My Freedom 217 is about.
Okay. Now, I ran in the provincial election in 2007 as an independent because I realized way back in the 70s, and a lot of people I talked to didn't want to hear about it, but when you analyze it, our political system has a lot of problems in it. One, you don't vote for the prime minister and you don't vote for the premier. You vote for the party. The only people that can vote for the premier or the prime minister are those in the constituency of. But when they vote for that man or woman in that constituency, if that's the leader of the party's constituency, in that sense, they're voting for the leader of the constituency, not the premier or the prime minister. So the fact remains that nobody has ever voted for the prime minister or premier in this country. That's one problem. I'm getting a lot of noise from somebody.
Got myself muted here, so.
Yeah, but I'm getting like it's a really loud. Like a wind almost. There, that's better. Much better.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, so no, that's fine now. But so we don't vote for the leaders. We don't vote for our leaders. It's an impossibility. We vote for parties, and we vote for representatives of the parties. And, you know, when they looked at it way back in the 70s, they said what we're actually living under is a benevolent dictatorship. And because once in power, they have their mandate and they can basically do whatever the hell they want. They load up the Senate, they can get away with anything. And I told people in the 70s, this is just to soften you up so that when they turn on you, which they have, you won't know how to deal with it. So when I was, you know, you say you want to get rid of the party system, and so do I. When I ran in 2007, I did a bunch of radio interviews, and the mainstream radio people were kind of freaked out about it. You know, I says my attitude is if we are working together as a province or a municipality or country, then we should not have this aggression of opposing parties. What we need is people with the correct mindset, and therefore we have to get rid of the right-left paradigm completely. And my attitude was that you know, if you're going to leave it in districts, then the people of whatever area, they simply do a direct election of who they think is best capable of representing their desires and needs and wants, and you send them down there with the caveat of an instant recall, okay? Because if your representative starts to go AWOL on you, then you have to be able to pull them out of there and put someone else in there. But the party system is definitely set up to keep the people divided and conquered. and confused. And the confusion's getting really bad now. Fewer and fewer people vote. In fact, very few people vote anymore. In a lot of elections, you've got less than, especially municipal, you got less than 50% of the population voting. So this first across the line makes no sense. So you have someone running your country who doesn't have the mandate to do so.
Not the mandate from everybody. Like take Trudeau, for example. His 30.
You take him. I don't want him. Take him.
The 39.5% of Canadians voted Liberal. Does that really represent everybody? No, just 39.5% of the people. And now we have a situation where 39.5% are ruling over the rest. And
well, they're not ruling over the rest. There's a lot of those 39.5% who are very pissed at this point in time.
Well, that number has changed since elections.
Right. So, but the fact of the matter is that once, Canada is a corporation. It's what it is. It's a corporation. So people say, well, he's our prime minister. No, he's not our prime minister. He's the Queen's prime minister. Okay, he didn't take an oath.
The CEO.
He didn't take an oath. He didn't take an oath to serve anybody other than the Queen, and the Queen is the corporation. So he serves the corp. Yeah, he's the CEO of a freaking corporation.
Correct.
So he represents nobody but the corporation.
Exactly.
And that is that should be a no-go right there.
Well, all the governments of the day are corporations and are being run as corporations.
Right.
Corporation of the United States, go on down the line. They're all
they're all corporations, and we're all subjects. Say, well, I'm a citizen of Canada. Well, if you look up the meaning of the word citizen, it means subject. So you're subject of the corporation. You're an account of the corporation.
Basically.
And if you look up surname, it's the surety. So your name is an account, a corporate account, which is the surety for the debt that the corporation rings up. That's a sweet deal. Not for us. Not for us.
That's what they mean by the security of the person in the Bill of Rights and Charter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're referring to.
Yeah. So we don't have a government. Right, we have a governing body of a corporation, and I had a long chat with it. We were in court one time. We were falsely arrested. This was. I've been hard since 2000 on this privatization of our hydro system, and they don't like it. So they like to try to get you to submit, and I don't submit well. So we were falsely charged and hauled into court, and they tried to nail us for free men on the land, which they didn't manage to do, and which I'm not. So they brought up from Toronto and London the heads of the Attorney General's office security teams and the heads of OPP, and it was kind of interesting because it was a lot of fun. But I was talking to one of the guys from the Attorney General's office, and one of the head cops who said, "Do not listen to Ron. Do not listen to him. Come with me," right? And the guy's, "Well, I hear what he's got to say." So I've spent a lot of time studying this over the years, and when you look at it, Canada is nothing more than a rebranded Hudson's Bay Company, period. What happened was back when the settlers started coming in, the Hudson's Bay Company, the East Indian, Virginia, and Plymouth Company all had their own courts. They all had their own jails. They all had their own police, and they had the governors of the companies. And when those governors started telling the settlers what they could and couldn't do, and remember, the settlers came here to get away from the tyranny they were living under. They were looking for some freedom. So now these guys are telling what they can and can't do again, and the settlers just finally say, whoa, who are you? We don't work for your company, so piss off. And that's when they got back to England, which had just set up the parliamentary system, and said, you know, we understand you got this parliamentary system thing going. How's that going? Works great. In other words, we hoodwinked these people again. Well, could we have something like that? Yeah, so we'll send some guys over and they can set it up for you. And then we were told we were given, this is the kicker, man, we were given responsible government. Well, okay, wait a minute. We didn't create a government. We were given a government. Who gave us a government? Right? The corporation gave us a government. So it's just the governing body of the corporation again. It's just a rebranding. The worst part of the responsible government is it says that the word responsible and responsible government doesn't have the dictionary definition of the word responsible. Well, wait a minute. If the responsible government's not responsible, what is it? Well, obviously it's irresponsible. If you look up irresponsible is one who is not liable, bound, or obligated, or so on and so forth. And that's why the members of the government can pull off the most heinous crimes against the men and women, and nobody's ever held accountable for it because they're not the accountable party. We are. We're the ones that were made responsible. We are the ones that are liable. We're the ones that are chargeable because we're just a corporate account. People say, oh, it was charged. Well, you weren't charged. They can't charge a man. They can charge the account of which they created when they hoodwinked your mom into registering you. So there is no government here. There's no government anywhere. There's just a bunch of corporations that have hoodwinked a bunch of people into believing they have a government. And then people wonder why when they vote for a party, the party never does what it said it was going to do before it was voted in. And so we're just being played for fools, and that has to stop.
Yeah, that's the thing that has to stop. Is we need to have a voice of our own, and the way we should be running ourselves. The way I've researched the direct democracy for years, and the Swiss model still has parties, and it's still. The parties are holding things back over there as well. It's still part of they've also got PR over there and MMP, which they're trying to bring in over here in Canada. Those are all just the same thing, rebranded. Parties are still there. You can't get away from the party system, which is the divide and conquer thing that they've created for us.
Right. So about deception, like you cannot have a real I don't even know what word I want to use. We'll call it government. The men and women have to govern themselves, but as long as we have a legal system, that will never happen. Okay, because the legal system is corporate. And law is not. And legal and law are opposites. And as long as we have a legal system, we cannot have any kind of a if you want to use the word democracy, is an impossibility because they control it. And they will always control it. If it's in a legal framework, the men and women have no chance. Because the legal system does not recognize a man or a woman. It doesn't deal with men and women. It deals with paper. It deals with the paper that was created after you were born. They do not recognize you. You've never been charged with a ticket. They can't charge you. They cannot charge a man because they don't recognize a man. So we have to not just change our political system. We have to change our system of law. We have to go away from corporate law and go back to real law. Real law deals with men and women. Legal system deals with corporate. And when I was in court there, we had it was amazing. It was really fun actually. We had a 3-day trial and all this intimidation shit and that going on. It was ludicrous. I asked the OPP, the head OPP from Toronto. I said, like, what is this? Is this common law court or is it a corporate court? And he just looked at me and he said, it is all corporate. And it is. There's no common law in this nation.
Supposed to be, but there is they steer you away from that all the time. You have to, even if you were to state that that's the jurisdiction you want, they're going to try to put it back into the corporate.
Well, you know it's corporate because in real law, you have a jury. And we have no juries. The only jury that you'll find really is in a murder case or something, and that actually falls under law.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is all corporate.
Yeah.
You know.
Which are basically just rules and regulations under company law.
Yeah, the corporate rules and regulations, but they don't apply to a man or a woman. They only apply to that paper because it's only the paper that's chargeable. And if you go back to Elizabeth or any of the kings or that, but Elizabeth's alive still, so you know how it operates. And this is the legal jargon. This is the deception. This is just bull crap. But you know, it says that Elizabeth, the woman, and Elizabeth couldn't become the queen or personify the entity called the queen until she took an oath. There was no Queen Elizabeth until after the oath. Until the oath, it was just Elizabeth. And they say that Elizabeth is the flesh and blood woman, and the queen is an entity. So this is where they nail us. This is exactly where they nail us. While Elizabeth and the queen are separate, they are also indivisible. And that's what they've done to us. They've tied us to the fictional entity they created for us. Now, you know it was a lawyer that wrote that because you cannot be separate and indivisible. You're either separate or you're not, but you can't be both. And that's some of their language that they use to screw with people. Now, Elizabeth took an oath to uphold the law. But when she took the oath, she became the queen, became the head of the corporation. And the queen is at the apex of the political and legal systems, which are corporate. So immediately, by taking the oath, she broke her oath. By accepting this coronation to be the queen, she actually broke her oath to uphold the law. And if you go back to the Divine Right of Kings, it says very specifically that they work as proxies for God and that they must follow the rule of law as per. As soon as they turn away from that law, they have moved into tyranny and they have no capacity to rule except through force. That's why in our legislatures, everything is color of law, or color and force of law, which is the definition of tyranny. And we got to change that somehow. Not going to be easy. They're not going to give this up easily. But this is what has to be done. So as far as direct democracy is concerned, I don't like the word democracy. I do like the idea of direct governance by the men and women for the men and women. And get away from this corporate nonsense altogether. How we do that, I'm not 100% sure, but it's got to get done.
Well, I think the only way we can do that is to basically get the word out. And with websites like IAQs and Facebook pages like mine's, we're trying to get that word out. But it's kind of hard because everybody is indoctrinated with this current system. And they can't see past that because they're so distracted with sports and with soap operas and TV and all this stuff. So it's going to be a difficult task.
Well, yeah, but I have a lot of people who get frustrated because they go, how are you going to change this? Well, they didn't get us here overnight. They did a lot of work, and there wasn't that many of them. They're just hustlers. And so it took them a long time to screw the people over, and it's not gonna get fixed overnight. Like, I'm 62 now, and I'm looking to live hopefully another 30 years, and it ain't going to be fixed yet. But if we don't start to fix it, we're never going to fix it. You know, they did in the 1200s. They woke up in the 1200s for a little while, and you know, they figured out what the problem was, and the problem was the lawyers. So they went on a killing spree, and their plan was to take out all the lawyers and judges, get them out of here. And they wiped out a shitload of them. And then they went back to their villages and that. But before they did that, they got King John and they got the Magna Carta signed. Problem is, they didn't get all the lawyers. So when the lawyers come back to the king, they said, we got to go get these villagers. And the king says, I can't do it. Why not? Well, I signed this agreement with them. What do the lawyers say? That's null and void because it was signed under duress. So this idea that Magna Carta ever had any teeth is just another delusion. So, you know, as well, Shakespeare said, first kill all the lawyers. And I'm not advocating people go out and start killing lawyers. But what we have to do with them is we have to kill them metaphorically. We have to annul their influence and their presence. You know, we need street cleaners. Get the guys that are lawyers and give them a broom, tell them to sweep the frickin' road. That would be a useful endeavor for these guys. But we have to get them out.
And I think the only way that it's going to happen quickly, Ron, is if something like another depression were to happen, like it did in the 30s. I think that would be the only way that people would start smartening up and saying, okay, you know what, I think it's time for a change. But the only problem is now is a lot of people are not educated. They don't know about direct democracy. They don't even have a clue. Like, I come across people every day, and sometimes I ask them, you know what direct democracy is? And they look at me confused. They have no idea because they don't want to. They were taught not to get involved in politics, and that is so wrong because, you know, at the end of the day, what the politicians decide really affects you. And they feel like
I see the people at this point. I see the people seem really beaten down. They seem like they've been beat into the ground, and you know, I hear people what's the point? Right? You know, what we can't do anything. I hear this constantly, right? You know, they'll just do whatever they want anyways, right? I hear construction workers that are getting screwed over big time. You know, I said, why don't you, because I got out of the business for quite a while, and I go, why don't you stand up to these clowns? Like, they're charging you $600 so that you can walk up a ladder? Well, we have to take a course. What do you mean you got to take a course to walk up a ladder? How long have you been going up and down ladders? 20 years? And you would actually bow down and take a course on how to walk up a freaking ladder and hand them a check for $600 and then have these pencil necks running around your job sites, handing you tickets out for having to smoke in your trailer and stuff? What's wrong with you people? Like, learn to stand up. I hear them say, well, we're just trying to stay out of their way. Well, how, when they get you pinned completely against the wall, how are you going to stay out of their way? You better start pushing back now, right? Before they got you completely pinned. We don't seem to have what I would call men anymore. I don't know what you call them.
Everybody's
children.
Looking for a leader to get them out of their the rut.
Exactly.
And they can't see themselves being a leader themselves. And this is the direct democracy give people the forum that they need to lead themselves.
Okay, but the problem with direct democracy and I mean, we got two things being played out here right now. One is guaranteed basic income, and the other is direct democracy, and they both come out of the same houses. And this stuff, you know, I went back and I looked at it a little bit a while back. I didn't spend much time on it, and I took a little deeper look at it. And you know, we you know, I said to somebody, probably got 2 months worth of shows here, steady on both the basic income and direct democracy, and both of them And I understand people's want for change, but you got to be careful what you're looking at, what you're wanting, and where it's coming from.
That's right.
And the direct democracy and the guaranteed income. And don't get me wrong here. I am a firm believer that we got to get this changed out. I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't. But the direct democracy and the basic income are like Idle No More and Occupy and on all these other things that come along. These things are all coming out of the tax-exempt foundations. These were the guys make their suggestions. The Rockefeller Foundation is brilliant at it and been doing it forever. They throw out suggestions on how to make change, but it's never, ever to the benefit of the people. You create chaos, and then out of that comes their order, not our order. So when I go and I look at this and I see, you know, I have some links. I don't know if you're aware of them or not, but I mean, we have all kinds of links to direct democracy from about, I think it's around 2000 on. If I can dig them out, got a whole swag of links open here, like 100 of them.
Are these links from the UN?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they do have that, as that they do want to give us that. And the thing is about the UN, not too many people know that the 5 founding nations have veto power over any resolution that's been. So that's not really a direct democracy. They're giving you the illusion of democracy all over again. You can't have a true democracy when you got 5 founding nations that can veto anything. That's not a democracy in my perspective, anyway.
Well, it's the same thing as what you have now, because you know, people say, you know, America's a democracy. America's not a democracy; it's a republic. So
It's supposed to be a republic, but
well, it's supposed to be, but I mean, this is how you keep rebranding shit, right? For someone's other benefit than the people that actually live there. And so they've got people in America now believing that they live in a democracy, and that we're spreading democracy around the world. What you're spreading is you're spreading slavery around the world, and not freedom. But where the hell was I going with that?
Basically.
Well, it is a dictatorship because, you know, well, when I first looked at the way the states was set up when I was quite young, which is like a million years ago, I liked the checks and balances they'd put in place. We don't have that system here. But when I studied a little closer, and once you realize that the president has both veto power and what's that word they use? He executive order. Okay. With executive order, you can bypass the entire system, which means you have a CEO of a corporation, which is a dictatorship. Right. So there is this idea of the Constitution. Well, sorry, you know, and I mean, it's the same thing. The founding fathers of the United States said, we, this small group of Masons and lawyers and that, we gave you a republic. The people did not create that republic. Just like here, we were given a responsible government, even though the word responsible doesn't apply to the government. So we didn't, we came, our forefathers came to these lands seeking freedom to get out from under the tyranny they were living in under, and almost made it, but didn't. You know, when I was talking to the Attorney General's office in Toronto, you know, they deny, but I've had so many conversations with them over the years, it's nuts. They finally agree that, you know, they said, okay, you're not a free man, you're just a guy with a shitload of knowledge. And they also agreed that we never left the feudal system.
No, we didn't.
Okay, it was rebranded. That's all. We're still in the feudal system, and we got to bust out of it because we're subjects, and I don't like being subservient to anybody. And that's why we need to get back to law. Law is so damn simple, and I've had this conversation with the Law Society. They have a stupid statement on their site that it's illegal to practice law without a license, and you say that's complete gibberish. But he said, what do you mean? I said, okay, you got the same problem most of the people have. You came through a school system where you didn't question anything from the get-go. You believed what you were told. You probably saw kids in class that were asking pertinent questions that ended up getting shit, and you didn't want to get shit. So you shut up, and you just went through and got your grades and wanted to get out the other end and get your career going. So you don't know anything. But this idea that it's illegal to practice law without a license is total gibberish. If it said it's unlawful to practice law without a license, okay, now we're getting somewhere. But you're doing the same thing you always do. You're mixing totally different words, have totally different meanings, and you mix them together to get people to think that they mean the same when they mean the exact freaking opposite. And that really shook the guy at the Law Society. We had a very long chat about that. And at the end, he goes, holy crap. You know what this means? I know exactly what it means. Okay? Everybody that's ever been through this legal system has to have whatever money was taken from them returned to them. And if it was any incarcerated for something that they caused no harm, have to be compensated for it. Because law is very simple, and I did that with the Attorney General's office lawyers. Let's do law. Let's come to agreement on law. What law is, and law is, as per what Elizabeth was supposed to uphold, is simply treat others as you wish to be treated and don't cause anybody any harm. That's law. And he agreed. And I said, fine, let's go to the legal system. The legal system is designed to cause harm, which makes the legal system unlawful. Everything that you sell the people through the legislature, through these rules, regulations, you sell on the idea of safety, which is a fraud. Because all you're doing is figuring out how to extract monies from these people. So you're taking away their law, you're taking away their freedom, and there's nothing in the legal system that's lawful. It's a fraud. So we gotta fix it.
The saying, man, he represents himself in court as a fool for a client.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one of those rhetorical lies that keep you engaged to hire somebody from the bar to keep the bar association flowing with money.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's a separate society. It has nothing whatsoever to do with us. You know, and the rules and regulations of the Law Society should really only apply to those in the Law Society because that's who they are. If you're a separate society, you know, if you join my club, you remember when you were a kid, you had clubs, right? Mm-hmm. Then the guys that set up the club set up the rules for the club, right? But you can't transpose your rules to your club onto some kid that ain't in your club. Well, this is exactly what's happened to us.
Yeah. With the legal system. And that's how they managed to get the U.S. back into the fold of their tyranny. Mm-hmm. Court was given to them, and that's a Vatican creation. Most of the laws come from Rome, or now the Vatican, and they created law today. They were always the power behind the throne, and they still are today, but not as obvious as it was once before.
Yeah, like you know, people get a little freaked out when I tell them they've never voted. And I went through this with the what do you call it, municipal housing and affairs on the municipal elections. And the fact is that nobody, no man or woman has ever cast a vote in this nation because you're not recognized. You act as a proxy for the person which they created. Only legal persons can vote. Well, legal persons are a piece of paper. You act on behalf or as the proxy. And anywhere there's a proxy vote, you have a corporate vote. That's the only place that you can have a proxy vote. So no man or woman, when they say, well, I voted for so-and-so, and I go, well, not really, because you can't vote. What do you mean I can't vote? And, it really messed them up over the senior policy advisor I was talking to. We did this for months, and then she finally, blurted out, and she goes, okay, Ron, okay, I can't verify whether or not the elections are legal. And I go, we just verified they're not, right? I mean, you got a bank of lawyers there, get one on the horn with us, right? We've been at this 6 months. If you who are in charge of the elections can't verify whether or not they're legal, you just verified they're illegal. So, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have to change the system completely out. We are, you look at this nation, we've got 34 million people, the second biggest landmass country on the planet, and we have poverty. Excuse me? There's nothing we can't grow, build, engineer, or produce here. If this was the only piece of land on the planet, and this was the only population on the planet which inhabits this nation called Canada, we would be living in frickin' Shangri-La. We would want for nothing. But instead, we have people living on the streets. We have people impacted with, alcohol poisoning, drug poisoning, GMO poisoning, fluoride poisoning, and vaccine poisoning, and so on and so forth. And this is our government who cares about us? I mean, how hard is this for people to understand?
They've been brainwashed into believing all those things are good for you, the government wouldn't do anything bad to you.
That's
right, exactly. Like the people have been convinced that if something happens to somebody, that it must be their fault, and the government will come to their aid. This is the propaganda that's been taught to these people. Of course, it's all false. So, I'm happy that I'm happy that our hydro bills are through the roof. I'm happy that people are living on the street. I'm happy about all this stuff because, with the ever increasing taxes and hydro bills and food costs and vehicle costs and fuel costs and all this kind of stuff, people are running out of their discretionary income. And people have this innate ability to look the other way unless they are personally affected. And the idea here is that everyone is being personally affected now more and more every day, which means that the people are going to have to start asking questions. And until they start asking questions, they won't be looking for answers. So to me, this is a very, very positive time. People see it as a negative time. I see it as a positive time. This is a time that we got to get talking to these people and wake their asses up.
I'm still talking to people that believe that the carbon tax is a good idea. And I cannot believe how some people think that a tax is going to fix the climate. It really boggles my mind how they can have this correlation in their mind that taxing is going to change the climate. I just don't get it.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the climate. There's nothing wrong with the climate.
No.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
But still,
no, we have a
numbers and go out to protest about climate change and asking our leaders to do something about it. And we got south of the border there, Trump, who's not buying into it. And the thing is, though, the Trump elections showed to me how the internet and social media can affect our politics and it is part of our democracy, but they're trying to take that away from us. And
Well,
that to me is the evolution of our democracy, is our internet, because we never had that before. So this feudal system that they've got us in could continue if we didn't have an internet. But now
yes,
that we
but
have the capability of being able to communicate to one another without having to be in the same room, this is where a direct democracy can be looked at seriously and say, we can govern ourselves from our own houses, and while we're having coffee in the morning,
I sent a thing to a friend of mine last night. We were talking after the show, he's calling in here right now. Just hang in there, Chris. I just be cool for a second. I want to talk a little bit more about this first. So yeah, just hang in there. Now about the direct democracy, I want to just get this off my chest here. Now, I've been through tens of thousands of pages of documents, Rockefeller documents, UN documents, government documents, and over the years, and the direct democracy is. I agree what you're trying to do, but I cannot give credence to this idea of direct democracy, because the direct democracy is a product of the tax-exempt foundations, which are the very foundations that set up the United Nations, which is also a tax-exempt foundation. The UN doesn't pay any taxes, and the UN is setting up as a world government, and it's set up basically the same way because government doesn't pay any taxes. And the idea here of this direct democracy, why I'm in rural Ontario, and they're busy putting in high-speed internet lines out in the middle of nowhere. And this is part of the direct democracy. But what people don't, you're thinking about a direct democracy for this place we call Canada, which sounds fantastic. And the idea of getting rid of the parties is a thing that has to be done. But you have to look at the broader picture. And the broader picture is not about direct democracy for an individual nations. This is direct democracy on a global scale. Okay, and this is back to the United Nations and that, who want to control everything. The idea of the environmental movement had nothing whatsoever to do with the environment. The environmental movement was about control, global control. The idea of the environment was that they have to create problems that are only fixable at the global level. These are global problems. And what they're pushing here is that we have a problem globally with democracy. And the idea is to set this democracy up, this direct democracy, at a global scale. Now, once that is completed, you ain't going to like the idea of direct democracy anymore. You're just not going to like it, because you're going to lose control of all your resources. We don't have control of them now. But once it goes into that global trust, now the direct democracy, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw something about dividends. We work with
that would
dividends.
be us that's
right?
Promoting that idea.
Okay, yeah. That's who is promoting that?
Well, I accuse it. Basically, we started that idea because it's basically we are the shareholders of our country, but the Queen is holding them in trust as the one and only sovereign, and in right of Canada, and that's why they all swear an oath to her. Our civil servants, from politician to Queen's Privy Council, and police and whatnot, they all swear an oath to her. But we don't want.
But that's all being rebranded. Okay, that's all being rebranded because all countries are also member states of the United Nations, which means the Queen, the head of state, has agreed to become a member state of the United Nations.
We didn't agree to that. That's something that we should.
We didn't agree. we didn't agree to anything because we have no power to agree to anything because we have no voice. The men and women have no voice. So you didn't agree to anything. We disagree.
Ron, if I can say something, there's a lot of impersonators out there parading around that they want direct democracy when they really don't. And I mean, direct democracy is really, look at the Irish Constitution. They had actually a direct democracy clause in their constitution, and the politicians took it out back in 1931, I believe. So the idea of a direct democracy is really power for the people, and not for a United Nations or some other governing body. I mean, we want a sovereign country. We want a sovereign country.
But you can't have a sovereign country as long as your country is a member state of the United Nations. You can't have a sovereign country. I mean, it was
to get out of that.
But Ron, how about this? How if we write our own constitution? Let's say if we implement direct democracy, and we decide, okay, let's shred this constitution because it's not a constitution for the people, and let's decide what type of constitution we want. Do we want one based on common law, one based on natural law? That's up to the people. But at least the people have the say. The people are going to decide, yeah, this is what we want, and it would have to be an overwhelmingly, not a 50% mob rule type rule. It would have to be like a 70%. So then it's a true consensus. But that's up to the people what they want. And if they decide, you know what, let's pull out of the UN. I, for one, we don't need a United Nations. I don't want a United Nations. I don't want to be governed by United Nations. But that's up to the people. That would be up to the people. And I'm pretty sure the majority of the people would say, you know what, we don't need a United Nations. If we want to help a nation, we can help them.
Education on that topic, though. People would have to be educated on that topip, and the conversations and debates. Online debates could start and educating the people. The tool that we're using right now to talk to one another could be the same tool that we could use to help educate the masses on that very thing.
Absolutely. The internet is a wonderful tool. It is a great tool, and it has to be used as what it is, a tool. And but the very people who set up the internet are the very people who want world government, and the internet was set up for that purpose. So there's too much. I mean, if I get into some of these links a little bit, a lot of these outfits that. If you look at direct democracy, which you never really heard about, I mean, it was, as I was saying last night, they're pushing the windmills and the solar panels, biodigesters, electric cars, and all this shit as a way to save the environment. Well, back in the 70s, when I was first introduced to windmills and all the rest of that stuff, it had nothing to do with the environment. Okay, the so-called renewable energy of today was a way to become the sales pitch at that time was to become energy self-sufficient, because that's the time period that they pulled the fake oil crisis, the Saudi oil crisis, and so it's order out of chaos kind of thing. So they make up these problems. They're trying to move us where they want us to move us. So they make up all these fake problems, and then they come up with solutions for those fake problems. I mean, if you go in and really understand how these institutions, these tax-exempt institutions actually operate, it'll become very, very clear. So here we have in the 1970s, this so-called renewable energy wasn't even called renewable energy. It was a fix for the Saudis' attack on us, withholding oil and putting the price up and yada, yada, yada. So that didn't work. I mean, they had electric cars. They all went away. All this stuff went away for a couple decades. But it never goes away. These guys are always working in the background, how they're going to deceive and screw people over again. So it's the same thing with direct democracy. That's why I wish you guys would title it differently.
Yeah,
if
but
you're going to title something, but if you're going to title something, and I agree that we need the men and women to run this nation, not a corporate-run nation. We need, I mean, the men and women, possession is 9% of the law. We built this. We own everything here. This is ours. Yet they take our stuff and they sell our stuff. We built it, we financed it, we paid the bills for it, and then some party comes in and says, "Oh, we're going to sell this all off to so and so." That's bull crap.
Rod, do you mind if I
and these
just say
people
something?
take it for it.
So, Rod, you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. Now, the reason why we use it, people can relate to that word. And I agree with you. If you look at the IAQ's website, there is something that does advocate for self-governance. It does say self-governance, and that's what this is about. This is about self-governance. Now, to go back to the ones that want a world government, would you say that would be the majority, or would you say that would be a tiny minority?
No, I don't think it doesn't matter. It really that
Well,
part
no,
doesn't
actually,
matter at
actually,
all.
it does. It does, because if
No,
you
it
were to
doesn't.
implement,
No,
hold
it
on a
doesn't,
second, Ron. Hold on a
because
second. No, it does. If you were to implement a direct democracy in Canada, let's just say, would you think that the majority of the people would want a world government? I don't
Especially-
think so. I think they
especially
want
no,
a
what you
sovereign.
don't
educated-
understand, okay, let me rephrase this. Okay, all of these movements. Okay, we have a global movement now for direct democracy.
Okay.
Now, where the hell did that come from? The grassroots? No, that came from the tax-exempt foundations in the United Nations and the bankers and so on and so
course,
forth.
Trying
That's
to
where
debunk
it originated from. Now,
but they're debunking
what
it,
they do, and it's a template that they use. Okay,
of course.
instead they have moved to this idea of what the people want, and they hoodwink these people. You want renewable
course.
energy? It's clean, green, free energy. The government never institutes any of this stuff until they say we're doing this because this is what the people want. Okay?
Of course.
And
Well,
that
can I
game
add
plan,
something to
that
this?
game plan comes directly from outfits like the Rockefeller, Ford Foundation, Carnegie Foundation. These are the background players. These are the
Yes.
guys that set up the United Nations. Okay? You do not have these groundswell things. These are not natural. Okay? These are manufactured. And then it goes down to the street level, to the NGOs. So it's called the vice. Okay, you've got it. The ideas being created from these foundations, and then you have the groundswell for the middle, and it squeezes down to the political system, and the political system capitulates and said this is what the people want, and it is all a freaking fraud.
Well, they're always going to lead you down the road, the gardeny path. I mean, they're always going to
but
tell
if
you
you're
it's
calling this
democracy.
direct democracy,
But that's what they do, Ron. That's what they do, Ron. We don't want that. What we want is
well, then
we
why
want a
are you
government
calling it
self-governance.
direct democracy? That's
Because
my
it's something
question.
that people can relate with.
Right.
They can relate
They
to.
can't
You know,
relate. Well,
democracy. We can change it to
you're
self-governance.
relating two separate entities is the same thing. So all you're doing is continuing the confusion of the people. You're not being
Okay, now,
clear at
Ron,
all
let me,
here.
let me,
If you say
let me ask you
direct
something.
democracy, no. If you're pushing
you're saying-
direct democracy, and the United Nations and the foundations are pushing direct democracy, how do
How
you
about this?
differentiate from your direct democracy to their direct democracy?
All right, how
You
about this?
can't do it.
Now, Ron, let me throw a scenario to you. Okay, let's say if we decide to change it to self-governance. What happens now if the UN comes in tomorrow and says, you know what, we're going to decide, we're going to push for self-governance? Then what do? Do you keep changing the word every single time that they try to debunk what you have? I mean,
They're
it's
hijacking
But you
the-
don't have anything.
Instruction.
If you're
No.
pushing direct
I know we-
democracy, you are
I mean,
pushing
we're trying to, Ron.
their agenda. If you're pushing their agenda, and their agenda is world government and control of all assets, let me explain to you really quickly this dividend shit. The dividend stuff is all of here's the deal. The deal is to drive the country so far into debt they can't get out, which they've accomplished. Now,
Right.
all right. So
They
now, when they did that the
control-
last time, they used you as the surety for the new debt. Now you can't pay
They
the
do that
debt
now.
off. Your children
now, Ron.
can't pay the debt off. So
Ron, they
we got to change this out again. So what are we
Well,
doing?
we're
Where are
trying.
these dividends coming from? The dividends are coming
Well,
from
Ron,
the
let me ask
universal human rights.
Yeah,
And
but
if you
Ron,
don't understand that, you're dead in the water.
okay,
All
Ron,
of
the natural,
your dividends are going to be given to you by the UN when all of the resources of this nation are handed over to the UN. And it's the
Gotta ask
same
you a
thing with and you will get adequate. Now, with
Ron,
direct
let me-
democracy on a global scale, you're going to have the poor countries voting, which outvotes you every single time, and you
I don't
are
know.
going to the toilet.
you keep going back to the United Nations. I don't support the United Nations. I don't want a
I
world
didn't
government.
say you support it,
That's-
but when I look through
I keep
direct
talking about it,
democracy,
but you keep bringing up United Nations. But hold on, okay, but let me ask you a question, okay?
well, that's
The
just
natural,
bullshit.
okay, absolutely, it is
All
it is
right.
bullshit. But the United, okay, forget about the United Nations for now. The natural resources of Canada, who do they belong to?
They belong to the corporation.
No. In reality,
In reality, they belong to the corporation.
No, but don't you think they actually belong to the people?
Well, that's what
I know-
people
It
believe.
doesn't matter
but
what I
that's not
think.
the
It's
truth.
what it doesn't matter
no.
what I think. It's what is fact. Fact is that the entirety of this nation belongs to the corporation.
But in a true government, in a true
You don't
self-governance.
have a true government.
I know that, but I'm asking you, do the actual resources belong to the people of Canada?
No.
Oh, no, should they?
Should they?
Yes.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
How are you going to pull that one off?
Well, can I
see,
speak
that's the
here
thing.
and explain
Yeah,
the way we plan on doing this? This is we're going to, under corporate law, as shareholders of the Crown Corporation of Canada, we should have a say as to how our shares are being. But right now, it's the Queen
You
and right
don't
of
have
Canada.
shares in the country, okay? You're accounts of the company.
Yeah,
You got
as
no
it-
shares in
now,
shit.
Yes, you're looking at it as it is right now, Ron. You're not
Exactly.
You're not.
Now,
You're
my
still in the box.
question is, how are you going to fix it with this direct democracy?
That's how every person has a share, has a voice.
Well, how are these people going to get these shares?
We take them to court under corporate law and get
But
demand.
under corporate law, you don't exist.
Can I finish, or is this
Yes,
all
please.
the show? This is. I know it's your show. We could listen.
No.
to you all
I
day,
apologize.
Okay, but if you want to hear the answer, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
I mean, under corporate law, shareholders are allowed to have a say in how the company is run.
But
This
you're
is
not-
Crown Corporation of Canada, and the shareholders are us. But right now, as it is now, it's the Queen that's holding our shares in trust for us, and she's the only one and only sovereign. Now we have to be able to create our own constitution, well, like we had a right to back in 1931 with the Statute of Westminster of 1931. There is no statute of limitations to the Statute of Westminster. We could still have a referendum to create our own constitution as Canadians, to create a constitution for Canada, for Canadians, made by the people, for the people, using direct democracy. And that will be ratified by the Canadians altogether. We have to put this together. We can't do this. I can't tell you how it's going to turn out, because I'll be a dictator by doing that. It has to be done by the people. It's not going to happen overnight. Even the U.S. Constitution took 12 years to create their Constitution, and actually they used the original Constitution that was here in North America before they created a Constitution from the Iroquois Confederacy, and that had direct democracy, that pure direct democracy where everybody had a vote on issues. They've taken that out of the U.S. Constitution. They eventually went with parties. As time progressed, the Democratic and the Republican Party got created, and that's where
representative democracy.
Yeah, and then your mob rule thing. There you go. That's where you get your mob rule. The true definition of what they meant as a republic was to eliminate mob rule, but they have mob rule with parties. It was really the definition of a republic is really defining more their justice system.
I get all that stuff, right?
Where
you have to deal with men and women, and when the native people, I think that's what you're discussing, the native people understood law. They totally understood law, and they used law. The native people got screwed over when they confused law with legal. That's what screwed them over. But I mean, law and native law, if you will, or natural law, is identical to the law that Elizabeth was supposed to uphold, and that is that if I'm living in your tribe and you're in a teepee and I get ticked off and I come over and put an elk horn through the side of your teepee and now it leaks, I've caused you harm. Now I would be brought before a tribunal of the people, and the one that owns the tent and I would be standing there as we're supposed to be, and the jury, our peers, would listen to our stories. And if I didn't have a good reason for stuffing that elk horn through the teepee of the other guy, then I have caused him harm. And in law, is very simple. Then I must restore his property back to as close as possible to before the harm was done. That's law. That is law. And the legal system is not there. Nobody ever gets restoration for anything. If I come bust your window and I go to court, it's your insurance company who's going to replace the window, not me. It is simply, the legal system is simply an extraction of funds and control of the men and women. So we don't want the legal system. We have to get rid of it. But going to direct democracy, right. One of you guys brought up Ireland. Here's Direct Democracy Ireland, a national citizens movement. Well, that says it's a national movement of the subjects of the corporation. That makes no sense. A national citizens movement makes no sense. That's bullshit. And when we look at their logo, we have the three intersecting rings. Now, we know what that is. That's the United Nations. So Direct Democracy Ireland, a national citizens, over here it says, show your support for DDI, Direct Democracy Ireland. And what does the page says? UN advisor stresses the need to develop direct democracy globally to protect human rights. Now, why would you want to be involved in that?
Ron, you're talking out of both sides here. Like you're saying we should get rid of legalese and legal system.
Right,
you're right. I agree with you. But we're not going to do that under the current system. We're going to have to change that on our own. And we won't be able to do that with this current system that we're in. We have to be able to all assemble one way or another to be able to get onto one idea and get out of
this. This is not your idea. This is not the idea of the men and women. This is the idea of the legal system, United Nations, and the tax-exempt foundations that created the United Nations and created the depressions and the wars.
We could let them.
So why would you wish? Why in the hell, as a so-called Canadian, wish to push their agenda? That's my question. You can't say you don't like the UN and not be, and at the same time be pushing their program. You can't do it.
You're correlating us with the UN. Why?
Well, you are correlating you with the UN. I'm not correlating anything. I'm just saying what it says here. I'm telling you who created direct democracy. It wasn't you.
Direct democracy has been around since it's the oldest form of democracy there is. It's the basis of democracy. Raise your hand. Here we go. We're direct democracy here.
No, I went back and checked that out, and that was only for the upper citizenry. That was for the elite, not for the common people.
Well, this is where
and that goes all the way back to Greece and Rome. Okay, so that's a misnomer. Okay, that's incorrect.
Are you kidding me?
If you hear what you want to hear without completely understanding what it is you're involved in, and I'm not trying to give you guys a hard time. I take my hat off to anybody that is trying to resurrect our nation into what it's supposed to be. But to be following this particular avenue is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I sent a thing to my buddy last night.
So how do you figure it should be done
totally then? Different. Now, my attitude here is what we should be running for is a nation of individuals in law, real law, not legal, meaning simply that we do not harm one another and help those less fortunate. And that's
I
it.
agree.
Okay, but that is not direct democracy.
Well, that's how you
direct
define it.
democracy is in a legal framework.
It's all
And
how
that's
you
what
define
we're in
things.
now, a legal framework. You will still be a citizen who gets to vote on issues globally, controlled by the globalists who set this thing up, and you will be a global citizen. In other words, you will be a subject of the globalists. So you will be subjecting yourself to the desires of the globalists. That is not direct democracy. That is global slavery.
Ron,
is what that is.
Ron,
and I don't
Ron.
care how you try to spin it out, that's what you got. So we need to get
Ron,
back.
okay, I understand that this is your show and you're going to be saying your spin on things, but that's your spin on things.
Not
okay?
my spin on things. It's the
Yes,
Rockefeller, the Ford Foundation, the UN, the present government we have here in Canada.
You know of this. I know
spin,
of this.
not my spin.
Just
I
the
got
fact
no
that
spin.
We are aware of this. We could stop it in a direct democracy. We can't have this continuous of. You think we're going to get this in the current system that we're in right now?
No, but my question is, how are you going to change it?
It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen.
How does direct democracy get the proper foothold? How does direct democracy be removed from this global movement nonsense?
We are all going to have to decide
singular nations, not to coordinated nations, to vote on global problems affecting this nation or that nation. How is it that we get back to law and get away from the legal system? Because until we, this is all legal framework, which
like
is
I told
legal
you,
is a fraud.
Didn't get what I said. We're going to have to decide all of this together.
Okay, and how do we start that?
Well, the Convention of Consent is the paper that's a legal binding paper that everybody signed. It's not a petition. It's sort of like our own referendum that we create on our own, and it's sort of like your own Declaration of Independence. But when you put them all together, everybody's stating that you do not want to belong to this system that we're in now, and we want to go on to creating our own system of governance that includes things like this, that everybody could bring out these things that you're talking about now and get away from the puppet strings of these oligarchs that are running things right now, because they can't manipulate us all. They can't threaten us all. They can't they can't buy us all off. It would be a physical impossibility for them to do that. They may be able to try to threaten us, but it would be an empty threat if we all stand together.
But how do we get the people to stand together?
The Convention of Consent is a start.
And what is it we're consenting to? I know there's some people, there's some papers out there, online papers to sign.
You want to hear the answer, or do you want to keep talking?
No,
okay.
I want to hear the answer.
Okay, give me a chance. The Convention of Consent is your formal removal of consent of the system that you have now, and consenting to moving towards another system that we all will create. You understand?
But who's creating it?
We are. We will be.
Are we?
All of us together. We will have to have our own voice and talk to one another, learn to talk to one another. It's not going to be easy, especially at the beginning. People are still stuck in this left-right paradigm mindset. You're going to have to get out of this program thinking and think for yourself and look at facts instead of beliefs, which are not necessarily based on facts. They're based on handed down beliefs are just not really based on facts. Put it that way.
Okay. Can we agree that we need to get out of the legal system and get back to law? You mentioned that.
Yeah,
native law.
That's one of the main things I would be pushing for, and I'm sure you'd be in there as well.
Okay. Now, how do we get out of the legal system?
Well, first of all, we can't do this by electing representatives. That's one thing we know. All right. We'll have to decide by numbers together. And the only way we're creating a referendum for ourselves here with the Convention of Consent to be able to opt out of this system. You understand? And to create a new one that we want that goes with a more natural law system. All right, whether it's common law, which is just Anglified version of civil laws, the European way of, that's their common law version. We have to do this together. We can't do this alone. We can't vote for a leader and hope that they're going to do this for us. We are our own leader. We are going to have to take our responsibility of being responsible for ourselves for a change. With rights come responsibilities, and that's one thing they don't want us to have, is to take on our own responsibility.
Well, yeah, because if we become man again, then they don't have any attachment to us. They can't use us for accounting or surety or anything else, which is perfect.
Right.
Because, there's a book out there, it's called Roman Slave Law. And you should read it, because this is exactly, we haven't moved. We're still in Roman slave law. It's the same thing with the entities and that. It hasn't changed since then. They've rebranded a few times, but it's
our
identical.
Education system is going to have to change.
Well, we have to get rid of the legal system completely, which means we
Right.
have to move away from the legal
Well,
system
there's
and into
still
law.
some things that we could keep, like maybe speed limits, just as a guideline as to how fast we should go on the roads. Stuff like that. We can't toss out these rules and regulations completely out the window, but we should be making them clear that these are rules and regulations, not law. Now, if you go too fast and you didn't hurt anybody, should you be given a ticket? That's a different story. You know what I mean? Peace officers was what we need, not policy officers.
Exactly. Yeah, that is in law, right? One is legal, one's law, right? And,
correct. Now we need peace officers to maintain the law and make sure that everybody's rights are upheld in different scenarios.
Well, your rights are you have unlimited rights. Okay, you have unlimited rights.
But with rights comes responsibilities. You can't be irresponsible and go speeding down the road and then eventually kill somebody, and then you've done harm to somebody.
Right. And then you will be held accountable.
Exactly.
Right. So with accountability comes responsibility. Right.
They go hand in hand. In fact, responsibility should be foremost before rights, actually.
Well, you have this idea of rights. You have unlimited rights. You can do whatever the hell you want in law.
It's got to be within. You're not. If you're doing somebody else harm with the gun you own, then you've gone too far.
Well, that's exactly it. But that's law. Do no harm. If you do harm, you're held accountable for that harm.
Stay with the law system, the actual law, not the legal system, which is a different system that altogether.
That's a different system altogether. But my concern here is with the. I understand how the United Nations works. I understand how their players work, and I understand. I've been at this for
and that's a good
so
thing.
many freaking years. It makes me ill. But the idea of the idea of the no, but the idea of the guys that set this up, okay, and then they send it down to the NGOs and that. And people say, "Oh, this has got to be better than what we had." That's what happens because people don't study enough. And say you didn't study enough, but the average person doesn't. And this idea of the dividends is the same workings as the tax-exempt foundations. All of the resources will be put into a trust, and that word comes up constantly in this situation. Will be put into a global trust, and dividends will be sent out to the people based on production and availability and all this kind of stuff. But the fact is that, like the trust, anything that goes the original that goes into the trust can never be touched. Only the interest that's generated by the funds in the trust can be used. If you move out those original funds, then they're taxable. So basically, you have to go back and understand that this is tied directly to the United Nations universal
Can we agree on one
human
thing here?
rights. Well, you always
Ron?
butt in when I get to that part of it, right? I don't understand
Well-
why. But the fact is that these dividends that they're talking about are global dividends, not local national dividends. This is on a global scale, and the West uses too much, and we have to get rid of global poverty. Okay, so the dividends will maybe start somewhere, but they will generally deplete themselves. And once they have control of all the resources and they're in control of the dividends of their trust, you are going to find that this gets really ugly, and a whole lot of people are going to die because of it. And that is who set up the idea of direct democracy. So
That's assuming.
I'm not bitching at you because I don't believe you have a good heart and good intentions. But this idea of pushing direct democracy, which is the exact same direct democracy that the UN and the foundations and the globalists and the bankers are pushing, seems to make no sense.
You're assuming that we're going to stay in the same global banking system. If we were to go back to creating our own money like we used to before 1974, then we would have our control of our monetary system. That's first and foremost before anything happens.
I understand all of that stuff, but I mean, we had Prime Minister Harper stand at the podium of the G20, said this meeting of international bankers is a loss of national sovereignty. You want to say some people don't like it, but it's a simple reality. So we've already given up our sovereignty. The Queen, who is playing head of state, has also allowed this nation to become a member state of the United Nations. And the whole idea of World War I and World War II was to take control of all resources on the planet and build a global government. So, we are already a member of the United Nations. We do the bidding of the United Nations. They're the ones that set up this idea of direct democracy to solve global problems at the local levels, right? So they are rapidly moving us towards with suicide, basically. So
but we don't have to go there, Ron.
What?
We don't have to go there, Ron. This is something.
Well,
the Crown Corporation of Canada made those. That the Crown Corporation Canada has to go. We can
absolutely. We don't want to replace it with the corporation, the global corporation, or the global trust called the United Nations, or anything that's attached to it. That's a worse scenario.
If the Crown Corporation of Canada could go bankrupt, but then the people that are running it today can go with it, we could create another corporate entity, or maybe even a trust. This is something that people are going to have to decide as to which way they're going to go with this. Everybody's going to have to make it. I could just suggest things here, but we are all going to have to decide.
Well, suggesting is the go word for what the tax exempt foundations are famous for, suggesting. Suggesting is to put thoughts into people's heads that may be quite nefarious. So, we've got to come up with a plan.
Suggestions. This is the thing, is we're going to have to
if you
get together and put up our ideas. Everybody's going to have suggestions. So
right.
It's not from the Gates Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation or whatever. They have one voice, and nobody has to listen to them.
But you push in direct democracy, which came from them. So why are you pushing a program this is a serious question. Why are you pushing a program that was put together to destroy us?
Program. You're putting that label on us.
Wait a minute. The UN wants the Direct Democracy Ireland stresses the need to develop direct democracy globally to protect human rights. And this is out of Direct Democracy Ireland. So, I mean, they're tied absolutely together.
I can't
So
speak
you
for them.
can't say that direct democracy doesn't have anything to do with the United Nations or the foundations because they're the
I didn't
ones
say
who
that.
created it.
I wouldn't go as
So-
far as saying they created it. It's as
Well,
old
yes,
as
they
time
did
itself.
create it. They did create it. So that's why, you know, when I was talking to Nick in the past,
They
I said,
hijacked-
I'm not adverse to what you guys are trying to do.
They hijacked that like the climate
They
scare.
didn't hijack it. It went down to the ground level, NGOs and that, who are to push it from the bottom up. And these guys
That's
push
the way
it
it
from the
is
bottom
today,
down,
yeah.
or from the top down. It's a template they've been using for decades.
But it's been around for thousands of years, for crying out
No,
loud.
it hasn't.
Direct democracy?
Who's got direct democracy?
Well, actually, Libya had it before they got taken over, but right now,
And who spread the direct democracy over there? The bankers, the UN, and the foundations. So Libya is
no,
a
it
good
was
example
when
of,
Gaddafi was
of
there.
democracy.
Check out his green book.
Who's
They
green
had
book?
direct democracy for the people in Libya. Now they got taken over by the U.S. type democracy.
Which is the UN democracy, right? Which is the guys that are pushing direct democracy. They want you
You're
to be
talking in
able to
circles
vote.
all the time,
want you
Ron.
to be able to vote on local and global issues over the internet or your telephone. At which point they get to work the data. They work the questions. They're the ones that come up with the questions for the referendums and that, not the people. And do you believe that the people in such and such a little country somewhere who are suffering this massive poverty, which nobody knows about, and are you in favor of sending more resources there? Absolutely. Okay.
Ron, I'm glad that you're
yeah.
helping to put out
Very
the UN agenda, but
Right.
and show it to the people, because then you could educate people as to which way not to go.
But we still not getting to the core of this, which is that, again, I believe that we have to get rid of parties. I believe we got to get back to law because history states that. But to use the same language as those who are trying to take you down and try to push a program that is supposed to benefit the
The
people,
language gets to
which
change.
is the same basic language and layout as those who wish to destroy us. How is it that you are to differentiate between their program and your program, which is called the same damn thing? How do you differentiate between your direct democracy and
Do
their
you want an
direct-
answer, or do you
can't
want to
do it.
talk?
You're going to spend the rest of your freaking life
Do you want an answer,
batting
or do you
balls
want to
back
keep
and
talking?
forth. Oh, that's their direct democracy, not ours. It's total confusion. So why don't you brand it something?
You're the
that
one who's
people-
confused here, because you're keeping their language. For some reason, you want to keep their language.
I
Why
don't
are
want
you
to
doing that? Why can't we
their language. I
redefine
want
it?
nothing to do with their
You're,
legal
you're
system.
cutting me off now.
Well, no,
Why do we have to keep
You are.
maintain those definitions? We do not have to do that.
But you do.
No, you don't. You don't have to. You're the one who's
Your-
hanging on to those
Your
definitions.
outfit does it.
No, listen.
You know, your
you
outfit
could
was
stay
all
in that language, or you
happy.
could get out. What do you want to do?
Guys, can I get in here?
Sure.
Please do. Whoever it is. Who is it?
What?
He's talking to me.
Who do you think? The duck.
Oh, I thought it was John D. Rockefeller because he was supposed to call in. Son of a bitch.
Hey, Nick and Mike, how you doing, guys?
Just kidding.
How you doing, my friends? Thank
I'm
you
doing
for being
good.
brave
Doing
enough
good.
to go on Ron's show.
Well, I'm not trying to
No.
irritate anybody
hang
here.
Hang on.
Deal.
I got a question.
Please.
I'm a Canadian.
That's your fault.
Yeah, I know. Blame my mother. But I looked at the Bill of Rights in the United States and the Constitution, and I don't see anywhere in either one of them the word democracy? I see republic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed the meaning of the words back in the day of the founding fathers. They demonized democracy and meaning it to be mob rule, and the word republic, which is supposed to mean basically one person representing many, to mean different things. If you look into go into Wikipedia and look up the word democracy, and they'll tell you right there. There's different types of democracies here. All right, how you define democracy is crucial in this, and this is the thing. You guys, people have to be careful how they define democracy. How do you define the word?
How do I define the word democracy?
The word
Is that a question to
democracy.
me?
Well, let me define the word democracy to you exactly what the word democracy means. Democracy comes from the word demotech. That's where the word democracy comes from. It says of or for the common people, originally district, from the root to divide. Okay? And that is what democracy is about, dividing the people. So why in the name of sweet Jesus do you want to use the word democracy if you're trying to bring the people together? That is the where the word democracy came from. It came from the Greek.
Now, how many people do you know?
No. And if you look up the word district, all I'm saying is use some intelligent language in this, or it's just going to be this confusion mess of your democracy against their democracy, and it was their democracy that enslaved everybody all these centuries. So why in the hell would you want to use the word
But I
democracy?
can't decide to make a word for everybody that everybody's going to accept. Everybody's going to have to be able to say, okay, this is the word we're going to use for your voice in a political arena.
But the word democracy is about dividing the people, and that's what you're complaining about with the parties. So why would you use the same word?
Ron, how many people know exactly what the word means as you defined it?
I didn't define it. I
citizen
did not
person-
define it. The origin of the word defined it. I didn't define anything. I'm just using the definition of the
I
word.
asked you a question. How many people out there that you know that if you took a census on what people think democracy means, what their definition of the word even means, are they going to give you the same definition you gave us?
There is only one definition, and that's the correct definition.
Well, that's the
Okay,
part.
see, with this idea of what definition of democracy, there is only one definition of democracy. Okay, in other words, you end up making up that, so you're rebranding the words to mean something they don't mean, which sounds a hell of a lot like the legal system and legalese. Now, if you're going to do this, you better get honest with the people. That's what I'm saying. And if you're going to wallow around in their language and say, well, their direct democracy is different than our direct democracy, then guess where you're going? Nowhere, quick, or ever. I am firmly behind you on the idea of recapturing, or we never had it, but capturing the ownership of everything on these lands, which belongs to both those who are the offspring of those who built the villages and the towns and the cities, and the native people that were here prior to. Okay? Those are the people that have to be brought together. The rest of these people got to get the hell out of here, and I'm talking about the politicians and the lawyers and so on and so forth, which gave us democracy. They're the ones that gave us the democracy, and it's exactly opposite of what we need. So to use the word democracy is to cut your own frickin' throat and give you no credibility whatsoever. That's what I'm trying to say about this. I agree with what most of you say, but you're going about this absolutely either the wrong way, or you are involved in this bullshit of this global direct democracy with these dividends that comes out of the trust that they built, which is going to starve your ass to death. You can't have both. You better pick one. And
Why are
if
you
you're
getting
using
so
the word,
angry?
if you're using the
Why
word,
why are you getting so angry about it?
if you're using the word and you're trying to make the word mean something different than it actually means, and you're fighting between their direct democracy, which is the UN direct democracy, of which you don't agree with, which means you also don't agree with the universal human rights doctrine, because if you agree with that, then you agree with the United Nations throughout everything else they do. So either you're anti-United Nations to the core,
Well, you make up your own mind.
or you're picking and choosing out of this mess, which you can't do. And you can't be legitimate if that's what you're trying to do. I'm looking desperately for people who give a damn about this nation, who give a damn about the men and women in this nation, and want to get moving on this without getting playing in these stupid ass games. That's the whole deal. Now you can't have both. And you can't be jumping in and out of different definitions when there's only one definition of democracy. And that's the origin of the word. You're talking about direct democracy goes way back to Rome and Greece and that. Well, so does the definition of democracy. And the definition of democracy is to divide the common people. And what system are we living in? A divided common people. So the last fucking thing we could possibly want is democracy. So pick a new word.
I can't. You've got your own definition of things and how you figured
There you go again. There you go again. I didn't dig my definition of anything. I don't use my definitions. I don't have any definitions. I use the definitions of the word. To say that is my definition is sidestepping the whole issue here. That's not my definition. I do not define words.
We need to clarify that word, don't you think? Don't you think we need to clarify that word a little bit?
You can't clarify a definition. The definition is very specific. Democracy comes from the root word of demotech, or demotic.
Yeah, that's a historical background behind the word.
Well, you're talking about direct democracy being historical background, okay? And this is from the Greek.
No, that's what you're saying, I'm saying.
No, that's exactly what you said. You said that direct democracy goes way, way back centuries. Okay?
Yeah, the idea of direct democracy is old as...
It was a scam at the get-go, because those who had direct democracy were only the upper echelon of the people, not the common people. Okay, so the direct democracy didn't exist in the terminology of which you would like it to exist. Okay, you missed the boat on that.
Then what are we going to call this thing?
Well, when I looked that up last night, when I was talking to Chris, when I was thinking about this, because democracy has never worked for anyone, but when I looked up the word individualism. So there's what I came up with last night: the National Individualism Society. Now, we are a society of men, not entities. We are men. Okay? And individualism, which I'd never seen the word till last night, says quality of being distinct or individual, as the name of a social philosophy forming non-interference of government in the lives of individuals, opposed to communism and socialism. Now that's what we ought to be striving for. Individualism in law. And that would make an extremely powerful group of people and an extremely powerful nation. And if we could pull something off like that, then we would be the light for the rest of the planet. I am a firm believer that because this country has such a huge natural resource base comparative to the population of it, that we in this nation, if we can get our people to stand up and pull up their damn bootstraps and get as half as strong as their forefathers who came here to escape the tyranny that they lived under and the feudalism, If we can start to educate our people as to what this nation is and should be, then we can be a guiding light for the rest of the world. To tangle ourselves up in this nonsensical misuse of words does not show us to be leaders. It shows us to be...
We are there already. We are stuck in that legal mumbo jumbo as we are. Most people don't understand that legal mumbo jumbo.
That's our job.
Got to explain it to everybody.
Right. Our job, though, yes, our job is to get the knowledge to the people. And
how do you plan on doing that?
Well, not through direct democracy. You certainly aren't.
Well, right? If we had a forum of direct democracy where we could debate things online in one place.
Lose that. You just can't lose that. You can't lose that term, right? Direct democracy. I mean, we've been through this in the get-go.
Accept it. That's your
and what the purpose of it is, and you somehow say, well, that's their direct democracy. This is our direct democracy. That ain't going to fly. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to push direct democracy under your conditions and end up people voting for global direct democracy through the United Nations. And that is the last thing you could possibly want if you want freedom.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you there.
So let's work together and come up with a new title for this thing, if you will. Or some wording.
My Freedom 217 is a good start.
Yeah, but then when I followed that through, I think I ran into the United Nations again.
Well, you assume and presume
you cannot, the human rights and all this kind of crap. You're not a human, first of all. You're a man. Human rights is animal. These are animal rights, and this is where the legal system took over. God gave man dominion, but then man got smart, at least on the lawyer side of it, and decided, well, if they could become, if they were men and they rebranded everybody else into humans, which by definition is an animal, then man has dominion over the animals. And that is what we are ruled over. We are ruled over by lords who look at us as animals. Now, we got to get back to being men. And until we get back to being men, we're going to be stuck in this quagmire of nonsense. And it's got to stop.
Just cut the bullshit.
What?
The bullshit is the legalese language.
Democracy is a made-up term by somebody that wants to obfuscate and confuse and cause division. That's all it is.
Well, that's all it's ever been. It is to divide.
Exactly.
And if that's what the word is, to divide. Now the other word is if we go back to democracy. If we go back to democracy, it also says, and this is what's happened. People don't understand this stuff. I mean, I've spent way too many hours digging through this shit. Originally district, okay? Common people, and this is democracy, originally district. Well, if you look under district, what does the word district mean? It means territory under the jurisdiction of a lord or an officer. The restraining of offenders' jurisdiction and under feudal system, area of jurisdiction, and this is what we're under. And this is the meaning of the word democracy. It says under Latin, distinguage or whatever, to hinder, to detain, see distress. Well, of course, we're all distressed, right? We're all distressed because we're in democracy. We got to get out of democracy. So to go from democracy to direct democracy, I think, wait a minute, we're still in democracy. We have to get away from it. This goes back to the very beginning of the divine right of kings. Okay, and the attorneys who turned from one lord to another, okay, And that's when we ended up in this lawyer system, which is a legal system, which is not law. And the whole thing has been a constructed freaking fraud to divide, conquer, and enslave the people. So the last damn word you want to attach to this is the word freaking democracy. Plain and simple.
We could change that after we start getting everybody together on this. We can't do it now.
Then you confuse people again. Why don't you change it coming out of the gates and denounce the direct democracy for what it is, a fraud created by those who wish to enslave you, who have enslaved you since the beginning of time.
Well, you can't mess minds with the word democracy and then suggest you're going to change it later.
That's exactly correct, because then you've lost all legitimacy again. You either come out of the gates straight or you don't come out of the gates at all, or you get hammered for being part of the UN globalist movement to enslave the people even further than they're presently enslaved. That's your choices. Not saying that's what you're into, but that's how it's going to be perceived. And so how long does it sit down?
Perceived by how many people do you think? The majority?
What? The wolves or the sheep? The
How are
goats?
the sheep going to interpret this?
Why can I not? My Skype screwed up. Nick's trying to get in here. I can't get him in here. He's been trying to get in here. I can't add him. Huh?
Get him in there.
Well, I'm trying to get him in here, but it's not allowing me to get him in here. It's giving me a no-go here on him. Why is that? It won't let me drag him in. When he calls in, it won't allow me to add him to the conversation. The hell's going on? Well, wait a minute. Okay, let me try this. Just a second. I noticed.
Yeah, I got you.
I've been trying to get him in. There he is. Maybe we got him. Do we got you?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay, I apologize for that. I've been trying to get you in here, and it's been giving me a no-go sign and everything. I've seen you calling and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we got you back. Beautiful. You've been listening to this, and it's not supposed to be an argument. It may sound like an argument, but it's not meant to be an argument. It's to both sides can end up with some questions they need to ask themselves with this over. I mean, I have questions now, which is good.
What it's basically
questions,
called down to is a definition for democracy.
Well, I mean, like, I don't really care
I
what we
use the word democracy.
Yeah, we can
keep
call it.
bringing that up.
Well, you can
That's
call it.
what your political position is.
Like,
Well,
I
that's
would
not-
almost
that's not my
like to
political- it's
become
not my
involved
political
with you guys, because I do believe in your hearts you have the right attitude, and work to build a movement that we can go and take back what is ours, and get back to law, and start a proper education program that is not going to confuse anybody. And is not going to get tangled up with one thing or another thing that doesn't be attached to the movement. It is
That's why
most
we need
definitely
people
time
like
for
you
movement.
involved into the education of the people
Right.
for the whole thing.
Right.
Sure, we could quibble about definitions, but we're going to have to eventually clarify and maybe redefine words eventually with
We
time.
can't redefine a word. That is what the lawyers do. We have to use words that
You got to get rid of that system.
meaning.
Get out of that idea that we are even asking for, you're going to have proof of citizenship. So the birth certificate and the social insurance number you're going to be your proof, but their identification, they're not going to be used in the sense that they're being used right now. You understand? We are trying to get out of the system by using the system that they have in play already. We have to use their legal system to be able to get out of the system. We're going to use it against them.
I totally agree with that part of it. I mean, I've been saying that for years. I mean, we use their system against them.
But the governmental system is not going to work for us. We're going to have to do it through their legal system. And we're going to have to challenge them Just the fact that they're operating
by force?
by corporate law as shareholders, we have a right to have a say as shareholders.
But you're not a shareholder. That's the problem.
Yes, we technically are, but the Queen is holding our shares in trust for us. It's all in right of the Queen as it is right now. She's the one and only sovereign. We have to become our sovereign. It's time to get off the tit, the Queen's tit.
Here's an interesting...
And become responsible adults for ourselves.
The Queen is a dual citizen then.
Yeah, she's the queen of not just Canada, but she's the queen of the of Britain and New Zealand and Australia. With the Statute of Westminster is when we became under the Commonwealth. That's the point in time we became under the Commonwealth. The government of the day decided to just go, oh, we're not going to go on our own. We're going to stay with yous, and they decided for us. But we should have had a referendum at that point in time. All these countries that belong to the Commonwealth right now have a right to do this under the Statute of Westminster of 1931.
There's a word here that I if you look up, Paul, or maybe I have it open here somewhere, but I got so many freaking links open, we're almost out of time. The word, if you look up, maybe I can do this really quick. You may find this really interesting. I know I did. Legal meaning, actually maybe definition of man. I found this very interesting because it goes back to what we need to be. Man. Okay, man. The word man, this is in the legal dictionary. It's Maori, which is, I think, New Zealand, the native people of New Zealand. Man is their word for sovereignty. And when I went to look up it's Maori, and that was the same time when they were peopling, here in Australia, New Zealand, and all those places. Quite interesting. There's a book on it. You may want to take a boo at it. It's very interesting, and I think it helps to clarify a lot of stuff of what you and I and Nick and everybody else is trying to accomplish here. But we have to come to we have to have a straight arrow kind of thing, right?
There's a lot to learn in all this. Have you ever heard of the doctrine of discoveries? A papal bull that was turned into law that justifies the depth of the lands that they've discovered in the 1500s. That's launched the age of discoveries.
I may have looked at that a little bit long time ago. I have to go look it up again.
Well, that's the thing that they keep using in law, and it's been turned into a legal precedence in the Supreme Court back in the 1800s, early 1800s, and it's still being used against Native people all over the world as to who actually owns the land.
Well, this is where that man, Maui, or whatever you call it, for his sovereignty, is that they claim that they never gave up their sovereignty because they were men. But anyways, we're out of time right now, I think. I want to thank both you, Paul, and Nick. It may have sounded like a mass argument. I hope not. Just discussing. This is about tossing ideas, and maybe it may have sounded aggressive.
I know of the UN agenda, and we are not part of that. We will educate people with time. But we can't do everything all at once. Nobody's going to learn all this.
No, there's no magic bullet. That's for damn sure.
Nope.
So I want to thank you guys. I really do truly want to thank you. I've learned some stuff, and I got some new ideas and so on and so forth. And I would really like to get you guys back down the road a bit. And we'll have a chat or something beforehand and see if we can go. Because I mean, I am a nationalist. This is my land. This is my people, and I'm sick and tired of them being screwed over. Take care.
Thanks, Paul. life.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only